Hello guys and welcome for another Hearthrune video. Recently I've posted a guide on how to use the rapier in PvE and what are the core things to know about the existing builds for that weapon. In the same video I also showed different testing results so you can decide for yourself what will be the best attribute split and perks necessary to get you the maximum benefit. Today we will take a closer look to one of the builds, which will be the bleed, and the similar variation to it, which is the evade bleed, so you can level up your PvE gameplay. If for some reason you still don't know how the bleed of the rapier works, I highly recommend you to check my guide which I made, so you can get a clearer picture of what is happening and what to look for. Alright, with the intro out of the way, let's talk about the first setup of bleed rapier. For this one, we will use the skill tree that you see on your screen and we will call it the Tondo bleed build. The reason for the name will be the Tondo ability from the left side skill tree, as we will not use the skill in our other variation of the build. For secondary weapon, you can decide for yourself, but ideally you would like to get some extra damage, and the easiest way to find it would be the Inferno artifact. Another cool thing about this artifact fire staff is that it has 3 offensive slots and we can use them to gain even more damage on our rapier. Now when we know the secondary weapon from the build and we are going a bit backwards, let's check what would be the ideal rapier for this setup. There are a couple of options which you can run, and of course each will provide you with different bonuses, but the core of your rapier when it comes to perks should be a gem slot with a rune glass diamond, keen Tondo and disdained infliction. As we are left with 2 more slots for perks, my first choice would be End, as this will give us even more damage to all our abilities. For last perk you can go with Thwarting Strikes, Sundering Stacks or another skill slot for which you can slot the Flurry perk, but either of those would be extremely useful in all different scenarios. With the weapons out of the way, let's see what are the core perks for our gear pieces and which artifact we should choose. Here there is no doubt that the Nimble Coat will be the perfect fit, as it will provide us with additional 8% cooldown reduction, and this will be extremely important, especially after the nerf to the cooldowns with the start of Season 10. This chest piece is coming with already nice perks and 2 open slots. One of them is for gem and the other one for an offensive perk. For the gem you can decide again what would you like to slot, but for the offensive I prefer to go with the skilled enchantment perk, as this one will increase all the ability damage and technically this would result in better bleeds. For the remaining armor pieces, the general idea remains similar, and on all of your pieces you would like to have Sacrificial Empowerment for the increased base damage, Skilled Enchantment for another increase of your base damage but this time on your skills, Wellness for additional HP, Gem Socket so you can protect yourself against the different types of incoming damage, and for last perk I suggest you to look for something again with an offensive benefits, which can be the Vicious for extra critical damage. If you cannot find an offensive piece, of course ideally you would also want to get your skill abilities, which are the Flourish and Finish and of course the Flurry. Here it's quite important to mention that Flurry is a must-have perk, while the Flourish and Finish is just in case you roll a piece with a skill slot instead of the 2 offensive ones. Moving to the jewelries, I think that for Amulet you can be quite flexible, and the core good perks are the different types of protection. Well-being for additional HP and additional offensive slot are of course preferable, but if you don't really manage to get them, it would be still fine. For the ring we need a specific piece, and this one is the ring that drops from the first boss from the new raid called Isle of Night. The name of that beauty is Spectral Rat, and it comes with the Infix Coat and Raged Leech. Additionally, it gives you an offensive slot so you can put another vicious perk, Gem Socket for another protection gem, and a randomly generated perk for which your goal is of course to get lucky and get enchanted skills. Last but definitely not least is the earring for the build. Here the must-have perks are 2, and they are Refreshment and Beloved. For the remaining 3 slots, the ideal combo would be a Gem Socket with 2 offensive charms. Another insanely good earring, which unfortunately is not so easy to acquire and even less to pronounce, is the unsurmountable, I don't know, anyway, which comes from the PvP track. You would really hit a jackpot with this beauty, as it will provide you not only with refreshment, but also with refreshing move at the same time. So as you can imagine, this would be a wet dream for all the rapier players. With all the stuff that we've mentioned, you will secure yourself a really nice damage output at all times, and you should be able to maintain a good cooldown for your bleed combo. And to finally conclude the whole build, our last stop will be the attributes and of course the Hearthrune. Many people would tell you different things, but in my opinion the best split for damage is to get the 350 dexterity and 150 intelligence, and with the remaining points you should get 25 focus for the extra 3% cooldown and maybe some points into constitution. Of course, for the maximum damage possible, you can skip the constitution at all and go for even more intelligence, as this will increase significantly your damage, but remember that damage comes from people who are still alive and not laying on the floor. About the Hearthrune, I think that there is no strict choice. You can take whatever is needed for the party and depending on the content that you are doing. And now I will not say goodbye, as we need to review the other bleed build as well. For those who watched my previous video, you would not be surprised, as we will go over the evade bleed. Yes, as the name suggests, we will be playing evade skill into our bleed rapier, and we will drop the Tondo for that specific purpose. The skill tree would look like this, and as you can already tell, there is quite a lot of similarities, but still the Tondo and the passives to it are missing. Instead, now we are taking the evade ability with all the passives up to Adagio, so we can maximize the potential of our rotation with basic attacks and evade cancels. The gear will also have a small change, as now we are more focused on hits and not only on the bleeds. Due to that, we will have to replace the previous rapier, and we will aim for the one with End, Omnidirectional Evade, Disdained Infliction, Gem Socket and Thwarting Strikes. Basically, the change here is just the Tondo being replaced by the Evade skill perk. For the Inferno artifact, you can keep it as previously, or you can get Vicious, Keenly Jacked and Leeching for maximum damage and sustained potential. The Armor artifact also remains the same in the face of Nimble Coat, and you don't really want to touch anything on it. For the remaining 4 pieces of gear, again the top priority are the perks Sacrificial Empowerment and Skilled Enchantment. Add to that your Gem Sockets and Wellness, for protection purposes of course, and try to get an additional offensive slot for some extra critical damage with the Vicious Charm. When it comes to jewelries, there is no drastic change as well, as the core of protection and damage remains. Same can be said about the attributes and the Hearthrune. In general, I believe that both setups are extremely high quality DPS builds, and they will feel amazing when you are doing raids or dungeons. I really hope that you will enjoy them as much as I do, and that you will feel the difference of being a high DPS rapier player. Now, I want to remind you that subscribing to the channel helps a lot for the growth of it, and that this way the information will reach out more players. Also, you can secure yourself a front seat for every new video when it's out, so don't miss on that opportunity. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.